So this video is going to be about how I niche down my AI agency. If you have an AI agency, if you're thinking of starting one, niching down is something you're going to have to deal with at some point or another if you want to scale. So really the purpose of this video is because I think niching down in the AI industry specifically, tech specifically, is actually very different than the other industries. And that's what you hear a lot of advice about from, I don't know, most people, most of the business people online, even some good ones. So let me just show you what I did and I'll show you the learnings I have, and I think it'll all make sense. I'm going to start off with my journey, right? If you're just starting out, when I was just starting out, I said yes to every single project, right? That meant if somebody asked me for an open AI project, if they asked me for an open source LM project, machine learning, clustering, text to vision, text to speech, it didn't matter. I just said yes. And that was partly because I was just super happy that people were interested in buying my service. Like I had something of value, I had some kind of product market fit. And it was also because I wanted to build the experience, and you should probably do the same, right? I think most would agree with that. Because when you're starting out, you don't really know what you're doing, right? You're not an AI expert, and the only way to become an AI expert, gotta turn this off. The only way to become an AI expert is to actually do the stuff and get the clients and do the work, right? So that's what I was doing. And at that time, I was actually undercharging by quite a bit as well. But it didn't matter because I just needed the experience, I needed the testimonials, and I just needed to do the work, right? So that's what happened. I would say, like, let's say 5 to 6 months or so. Eventually, it got to a point where I was actually getting a lot of interest, right? I had anywhere from 4 to 5 clients a month, right? Depending, anywhere from 3 to 5 clients. And it got to a point where I was working 50, 60-hour weeks, right? And like at first it was cool because I thought I was an entrepreneur and I thought I was, doing the grind, right? That's what everybody does. And that's like, I was living my dream. But I would say a month or two in, it starts to really get to you. And like specifically, right, the 50, 60-hour weeks is not that's not too bad. It's the fact that I had like 5 different businesses at once. What I mean by that is every single client, I was doing a different project. So I had a different learning I need to do for them, even though it was in the AI space. And so I was like, the thing was I needed an aha moment for every single project, and getting that aha moment required a lot of work, right? It was like 20, 30 hours per client. So trying to squeeze that in, do that with the marketing and the sales, like it was a mess. It affected my mental health, and I knew there was a better way to do this because I don't think most people, even though they work really hard, I just knew there was a better way. That's all I'm trying to say. And what I realized was I was just giving myself a high-paying job. I didn't realize it at the time, but now looking back, I was essentially just a freelancer who people came to for AI work. I wasn't really an entrepreneur or a businessman. So what now, right? At that point, I had gotten a lot of experience under my belt. I was starting to kind of charge a market rate. People were trusting me. I was giving consultations to enterprise. Like it was all going good, but I need to find a way to make more money while working less. And what everybody tells you online is to niche down, right? Niche down basically means instead of doing everything for everyone, you do some small thing for that small person, with the idea being that now that you've narrowed your scope down, you can just focus on being the best at it, right? So that's what I try to do. I try to find one thing I can do for clients again and again. And for me specifically, because I had so many clients under my belt, I just drew a map, and I'll show that to you guys at some point. But it was one axis was how much I was charging, the other axis was how much value I was giving. And so whoever like my highest value, highest price clients were, because I want to give the most amount of value and charge the most amount of money, I just try to replicate that. I did the cold outreach, I did the cold emails to them, same type of company from the same country, attend to the same types of customers. Like, you get the idea. I tried to do that, and I ran into a couple roadblocks, or I'll get to this in a bit. The problem I was facing was that every business, even though I had proven out that AI could save them time and money, their reception to AI was different, right? Like some people, like this problem I saw for one of my clients, the other business did not have, despite being in the same industry. Another business, they had the same problem, but they just weren't comfortable to use AI. So it was like a whole mess, right? It was a whole mess, even though I got them on a book call. And the point over here, right, I didn't really mention this, but I'll kind of circle back around to this. The point of niching down is so that you can start giving away, you can start getting out of the business, right? If you're doing the same thing over and over again, that means you can write a set of instructions and let somebody else do it. So making a business VA ready, what that means, VA is virtual assistant, means you dumb this business down to just like a Google Doc. Just think of it like a Google Doc with every single documentation of everything you would do if you were to sign a client. You give that to a VA. Typically it's outsourced, where like the minimum wage is lower than, let's say, like the States, like America. And you use that wage arbitrage to basically make money fulfill projects at a price lower than your hourly rate, and that allows you to kind of get out of the business, focus on the sales and marketing. That's the whole point of it. That's what I was trying to do. That was my dream of getting this VA ready business. And so, I was stuck on this problem for 5-6 months, and I knew in the back of my mind what the answer was, but I just wasn't willing to kind of come to grips with it. And that's really what this video is leading up to, right? If you're already an AI agency, you already have clients, you're wondering, how do I productize my service? You need to realize you can't necessarily niche down, because your productized service and a productized AI service is a SaaS, right? If you're doing the same technology, you have the same tech stack, you're doing it for every single client, you might as well just build a SaaS, right? And the thing is, right, if you're not familiar, SaaS is software as a service, right? So as an AI agency, you're providing your AI services to your clients. SaaS is you're providing software services to your clients, right? You get the idea. But with the SaaS, right, there's no human person involved. And so that's, I mean, I knew that in the back of my mind. You might also already know in the back of your mind, but you're just not really sure. But if you do the same thing for every single client again and again, you might as well just build a SaaS. If you're not going to build a SaaS, then you can't productize, right? And the problem, right, the deeper problem here, and nobody's really talking about this, is that there are a lot of SaaSes that do what your productized service does. And no client's going to want to spend a couple $1,000s when that SaaS is only charging them like 30, 40, maybe $100 per month, right? Per month, not per hour. So that was a conundrum I was kind of dealing with. And it wasn't until very recently when I realized the only way to solve this, I don't even know what I was thinking. I was like, is there like a way for me to productize this and not be a SaaS? But it's impossible, right? If you're gonna do the same thing again and again in technology, that's just a piece of code or like a lines of code. It could even be no-code tools that are executing again and again. And that means you can just put that behind like a Stripe paywall. And like, so my point here is the only way I solved this was by having some kind of custom solutions piece, right? And it's kind of sad because I said no to a lot of people that were interested in my service because they had some kind of custom solutions piece. I kind of vowed to myself, as like you'll kind of hear everybody say, if they're not in your niche, you say no, right? Be disciplined. And that's what I did. I turned them down. And the problem was, I mean, I was just thinking about the thing, like I was thinking about the whole thing the wrong way, right? I'm not a SaaS. I am an AI agency, right? People come to me because the SaaS does not solve their problem, right? And so the custom solution, like that is the job. And that is why as an AI agency, you get paid so well. So the solution to this was I praised the fact that I'm going to have some kind of custom solutions, right? Sure, after a while, after you've kind of worked across 6-7 industries, you kind of get a feel for things. You understand like what type of solutions are going to fit in what thing, and you'll have a general playbook, right? But I just accepted the fact that I'm going to be a custom solutions agency, at least partially. And let me give you some more, I guess, nitty-gritty here. So first thing is, in terms of what I actually did to productize it, instead of focusing on like, I guess, cutting down my ideal client, I just cut down the service I offer, which is like another way to productize the service. So first is any kind of open source LLM project. I was doing a lot of those when I started, and there's a huge demand for that because people want to keep their data private. I just cut those out. The reason why is because even though like those kind of projects were paying me, let's say 2x what an OpenAI project would pay me, the problem was I was working like 4-10 times more, right? 4 to 10 times more. That's like in terms of actual hours. And the reason why is because these open source LLMs are much stupider. There's a lot more testing involved. Like you have to set up the whole infrastructure in the cloud. Like it's a whole mess, right? It was so dirty, and I just like I didn't want to do it, right? I didn't have like a passion for it, and even if I didn't have a passion for it and it made me money, it just did not make business sense. So I only focused on the OpenAI implementation. And the second thing I did, and this is super, super important, is I'm very selective about the clients that I work with, right? I don't know if this sounds kind of cliche, but let me put it to you this way. When I started, I said yes to everyone. I took on every single project, and that included people who wanted to build their startup from scratch, right? This was like regular people who had a regular job who asked me to build their AI startup for them. And I guess it was kind of naive, but I was also just kind of taking on experience. I said yes to them, and my prices back then were also extremely low because I was just starting out, right? So the whole thing, I mean, it all worked out in the end, right? But my point here is those types of people, they expected a lot more from me. They had lower prices because they didn't have any money to work with, right? They were working their day job, and this was just a side thing, like a side passion for them. So they were like less responsive. It was just a complete pain to work with, right? And it's not like they were bad people. It's just that it wasn't the type of people I wanted to work with. Compare that, on the other hand, with a business, right? Which are like, I only work with SMBs now, specifically, like not enterprise either, SMBs specifically. The difference is they have a lot of money to spend because if I build that AI thing for them and they get the ROI, they're happy to spend like 50-60% of how much money I'm going to make back for them, right? And also they are in business, right? Because they're in business, they understand the nature of having like an agency work with them. They understand that they need to stick to a scoping document, right? They understand that scope creep, you should not do that. And for most clients, and the few clients that are not kind of doing that, you can kind of tell from your gut, so you can cut them out. So yeah, the point here is I'm just very selective with who I pick as my client. Even if they're offering me a ton of money, if they're not meeting the gut feeling fit, I just don't take them. And it served me well because I've learned that lesson more than once, unfortunately, and just kind of bit for the money. The third thing is I outsource everything that's below my minimum hourly rate. So this one is just me basically buying back time. An example is if I need to scrape a website, I'm not going to do it myself because I can just pay somebody like 10, 20, maybe $50 if it's something complex to do it for me, right? And in those, like, let's say 3-5 hours that I gain back, I focus that on higher value things such as sales and marketing and maybe even solving my current clients' actual problems that nobody else can do, right? The actual dirty work. And so in that way, I was kind of getting my time back, and like similar to niching down, instead of me focusing on like a specific avatar, I'm just focused on a specific, like I only do one thing, which is focus on the hard problems of the AI. So that was a long video, but I think I went pretty deep for you guys and kind of, I hope you're seeing where I'm coming from with this. So the main point here is make sure that a SaaS is not going to wipe out your business, right? Because you just see it time and time again if you try to niche down. Just keep in mind, think of it from your client's perspective. If they're going to spend like $30, $50 a month to do something you're going to charge $3,000 for, why would they take your service? They wouldn't, right? So hopefully this video is useful, right? I spent I think 5-6 months of me just banging my head and, paying a lot of money for mentorship to kind of understand this. I'm just kind of giving this to you guys as a way of almost kind of, if somebody like me is watching this video, that's really who this is for. So hopefully you guys enjoyed this. Like, comment, any kind of questions, and I'll talk to you guys soon. Bye-bye.